Good morning, YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. This is IMAX Sports with another football video, and today I'm going over the newest installment in the 2021 quarterback carousel. This is the second video I'm making on this. The first video I made was about the Jared Goff Matthew Stafford trade. Now this trade is between the Colts and the Eagles, and Carson Wentz is now an Indianapolis Colt. So I'm going to go through the details of the trade, what it means for both teams, and yeah. So, and what my opinion is overall of the trade in general. So, first of all, the trade itself. The Colts get Carson Wentz, obviously, and the Eagles get 2 draft picks. A third-round draft pick from this year, and then next year, they're going to be getting either a second-round pick or a first-round pick. If Carson Wentz starts 75% of the games, the Eagles get a first-round pick. If he starts 75% of the games and goes 5-11, the Eagles get a first-round pick. If he starts 70% of his games and makes the playoffs, the Eagles also get a first-round pick. So he's guaranteed. The Eagles are guaranteed a first-round pick if he plays in at least 75% of the games. If he doesn't, or if he, I believe it's snaps. I believe it's 75% of the snaps, but I'm not positive. If he plays less than 75%, but over 70%, they need to make the playoffs for the Eagles to get the first-round draft pick. Otherwise, the Eagles don't get the first-round draft pick. They get a second. So, I think that it's a likely scenario that Carson Wentz plays 3/4 of the season. I think that was part of the deal because he only played 12 games this year for the Eagles before getting benched. So I think that that's why that was part of the deal. But also, the Colts can take advantage of that because if Carson Wentz is 1-6 or 2-6, then they can bench him before he reaches that 3/4. But if he's doing well, then they're not going to bench him, so they'll just get the pick. So it's a very interesting trade. I think that it's not a bad trade for either team. I don't think that either team is getting too much out of it. I don't think that is a great trade for either team. I don't think it's a bad trade for either team because the Colts need a quarterback, and the Eagles have 2. The Eagles have Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz. The Colts don't have anyone. And so when I was making my NFL Power Rankings video, my way too early Power Rankings video a couple weeks ago, I said that the Colts were ranked about number 20th in the league because I didn't know who they're going to get for a quarterback. I believe it was around 20. It might have been a little bit higher than that. I was expecting them to go about 7-9 because they have a great team. They have a great top 10 defense, borderline top 10. They have a very strong offense, and you need the right person in order to do well. Like the Patriots last year, I thought we had a top 5 defense in the league, in my opinion. Definitely top 10, possibly top 5. And we were missing players. Our offense was we had some strong young players that haven't had a lot of time on the field, and the quarterback situation just didn't work. Cam Newton had more interceptions than passing touchdowns. We still ended up going 7-9. So I think that the Colts and the Patriots are in very similar situations this year, where they have very strong teams, but the quarterback is going to be the biggest deciding factor of how well those teams can actually do. And I don't know if Carson Wentz is the right person to do it. He's coming off of the worst season of his career by far. He led the league in interceptions, and he only played 12 games. And he fumbled. He had a few fumbles as well. I mean, he had 210 yards a game. He had more interceptions than touchdowns. He only played 12 games before getting sat and going 3-8-1. And worst of all, he lost the worst division in NFL history. I believe he lost it. They lost the worst division in NFL history. No division has ever. There might have been one, but it was one of the worst divisions in NFL history. He lost to all 3 teams, and 2 of those teams only had their starting quarterback for half the season. Washington only had Alex Smith for 6 games, and Dallas only had Dak Prescott for 6 games. I mean, you can't lose the worst division in NFL history with 2 teams, quarterbacks, being out for half the year. The Eagles team, frankly, though, is bad. They are bad. They're really bad. But Carson Wentz, I mean, I've never been a Carson Wentz person. I never thought that he was the guy. I never thought that he was going to be the next big thing. If you look at his stats, his first season he had 16 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. He had a terrible season. The team went 7-9 because they had a strong defense. They had a strong team. The next year, they had that Super Bowl team. Carson Wentz didn't play in the playoffs there. He had a phenomenal season. He had an MVP-esque season, but the team around him was phenomenal. The team around him is what enabled him to do that. The next year, Carson Wentz only played 11 games. He went 5-6. 21 touchdowns, 7 picks is not bad. 279 yards a game is fairly decent, and 102 passer rating. So he did well, but he couldn't win games. The next year, they went 9-7. His stats were still pretty decent. They weren't anything special. This was when I thought that he was starting to regress a little bit, because every year his yards per game would go down, his touchdowns per game would go down, his interceptions would increase, and then this year it all went downhill because the Eagles team had been progressively getting worse, and as the team got worse, Carson Wentz got worse with it, and that's normal, especially for a young quarterback like him. That being said, the Colts have a strong team. They have a very similar team to the Eagles team that won the Super Bowl. And you also have to take into account that Phillip Rivers went 5-11 with the Chargers the year before going 11-5 with this Colts team. Your running backs, Jonathan Taylor is going to be a year older. He's going to be in his second year in the NFL. T.Y. Hilton, in the wrong direction, is going to be a year older. He might regress a little bit. They might be able to get a wide receiver out of the draft for Carson Wentz to throw to. They have a better offensive line than the Eagles' god-awful offensive line. Carson Wentz was sacked 50. He led the league in sacks this year. So this is a very interesting trade, in my opinion. I don't think that either team lost on here. I think that both, because the Eagles have Jalen Hurts, and I think that Jalen Hurts works better with this Eagles team because Carson Wentz is a mobile quarterback, but Jalen Hurts is a very mobile quarterback. So I think that the issues with the offensive line won't be as big with Jalen Hurts there. Carson Wentz was sacked 50 times in 12 games. Sorry, I meant to have Jalen Hurts' stuff up before this too. I just forgot to. Jalen Hurts was sacked 13 times in 4 games. So I mean, and he had 6 touchdowns and 4 picks. At least he had a better touch to interception ratio than Wentz did. But I think that Jalen Hurts is a better fit for this Eagles team, frankly. And I think that if I were to give a floor and a ceiling for both of these teams, I would give the Eagles floor like 4-12. I think that 4-12 is their floor. Jalen Hurts won 1 out of 3. Yeah, he won 1 out of 3. I think that he'll be a year older. He'll improve. Eagles floor is 4-12. Their ceiling, I don't think they're gonna be over 8-8. I think the Eagles are between 4-12 and 8-8. My prediction is probably 5-11. As for maybe 6-10. As for the Colts, I think that the Colts' absolute floor is 5-11. Actually, I'm gonna say the absolute floor is 6-10 because this was the first year that Carson Wentz ever went below 7-9. First year of his career, he went below 7-9. So I'm gonna say that their floor is 6-10. They have a strong team. Carson Wentz is we don't know what Carson Wentz is. Cam Newton was an NFL MVP. He went to a different team. He went 7-9. I think that most likely the Colts will go 8-8, 7-9, between 7-9 and 9-7. Probably closer to 9-7. And then I think that their ceiling is 11-5. I don't think that they can go any higher than where Phillip Rivers brought them, because I think that Phillip Rivers is a stronger quarterback than Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz can do well with them, but I think Phillip Rivers is stronger. So, I think that the absolute ceiling for the Colts is 11-5. I think that their absolute floor is 6-10. They'll probably go 9-7. So, at the end of the day, the Colts won on this trade. They have a quarterback that can bring them into the future of the team. The Eagles didn't lose because they're getting a third and probably a first, because I don't think Carson Wentz will be benched. I think that he'll do well enough to keep the starting job. I also don't know who the Colts would put in because they don't have anyone, and they have a pretty low draft pick this year because their team did well. So it was an interesting trade. I'm interested to see how the rest of these quarterback trades go, where the rest of these quarterbacks end up. And I'm really excited for the continuation of the quarterback carousel. I'll keep you guys all updated on what quarterbacks go to which teams, what trades happen, and thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace.